Welcome to the How Did I Get Here podcast. I'm Ryan Poley, and this is a conversation I had with Marc Vetri, legendary chef in Philadelphia, owner of Fioriello Pasta Bar, Vetri, and Furia Rosa. Marc Vetri, thanks for hanging out with us today.
My pleasure.
I have a whole list of questions for you.
A list?
Yeah. So
you didn't email me the questions?
No, I didn't. No, these are gotcha questions.
Gotcha.
So we're gonna start with politics. No, I was kidding.
Who won last night?
Yeah, right.
Was it just an election?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Everybody knows your background. Everybody knows who you are, more or less. So we're not going to get... It's all online. Everybody knows who you are. Everyone knows who you are. My first question to you is, why Italian food? When you were coming up and working in restaurants, was there ever a moment where you're like, you know what, I want to go learn French cuisine. I want to go check out the flavors of Asia. It's always just been Italian cuisine.
It's always been Italian.
Have you ever been interested in checking something else out?
Not really. It was. I mean, I just think it was actually the way that I was. Like my mom and dad. They raised me. My father's family. They're all from Italy. Mm-hmm. And when I was 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old, we used to go down to South Philly. 9th Street,
the markets.
They lived there, mm-hmm. So we used to go to the markets, we used to get all the stuff, and then we used to head over to their house and, just make everything, the lasagnas and the meatballs and the macaroni and all that stuff. And, it was that, but it was just the love of just that whole, sort of thing, it was, and we've actually had some discussions about this. It's not always about, I think, the food, right? Mm-hmm. I think it's just about everything. The vibe, the ambiance. How it makes you feel,
the
family, friends, hospitality.
Yeah, right.
It's the hospitality industry.
Right.
It's not the restaurant industry. It's hospitality, and it's how we make you feel. Mm-hmm. That is the most important thing. So for me, that food from Italy, just makes me feel good. Mm-hmm. So it was just always that. I mean, obviously, I loved other, styles of food as well. But even like working, like when I lived in Italy, this is. I mean, again, think about when this is, right? This is the early 90s, mid 90s.
Pre-Food Network, pre-Top Chef.
Pretty much pre-food, like right at the start of the Food Network.
Uh-huh.
Like you weren't getting in this industry because you wanted to be a rock star
or a
chef.
TV chef,
no,
right? Yeah,
that was not. This was just like right when the Food Network was like starting.
When kitchens were behind the wall and nobody went back there.
There was like Wolfgang.
Yes.
And he was like the guy. The guy.
Yeah.
The initial guy, the first guy. So, I went, to Italy to work. And man, the chefs there were just like, whenever anything arrived, like fish or mushrooms or like vegetables, the chef would yell over to her, Mark, look at this. Smell this. Oh my God, eat this. Look at this. He sliced a piece of meat off. See it. Oh my God, it's amazing. Yeah. And then I would like, hear friends of mine who went to like France, they'd be like, oh, I'm not allowed to look at anything. The chef hit me the other day, scolded me, made me pull my pants down. Was like, you can't leave with that recipe. Like, I was like, fuck French, man. I'm staying in Italy.
Right. Yeah.
So that's, and that just made me even like fall in love with it more because when I was leaving for Italy, everyone was like, just watch out, those European chefs are crazy, and I was like, all right, whatever. And I just...
You never had that experience?
Never.
Yeah.
Just always welcoming, When I was off, we worked in Italy 6 days a week, and we were off, one day. Mm-hmm. The chef would like make me like food and leftovers. He's like, here, eat this tomorrow, because he knew like I didn't have any money, and he's like make me food. It's just
right.
Not anything like that experience.
I could relate because coming out of the French Laundry, I wanted to go work in France. I thought that was when I first started cooking, that was the pinnacle. It was always, you got to go work in Europe. And that was ingrained in my brain. And then French cuisine in the late 90s was all we were doing. So I sent my resume to all these chefs in France, all the 3-star Michelin, and I had faxed it. We had the fax machines back then. And then nobody responded. I think Michelle Bra responded with like, we're full, sorry, And then I had a friend in Spain who's like, hey, you should come out and check out what these guys are doing. So I found a whole list of Spanish chefs, and I faxed and emailed, and everyone messaged me back. Like, come whenever you want. Who cares? Sure, So it's like the same kind of like, that Mediterranean kind of lifestyle attitude of, Spain is kind of similar in that attitude to Italy. Yeah.
And it was nice. I mean, how many chefs have you heard about, or how many like, I went to stage here, I went to stage there. I used to have to scrub the floor with like a little fucking with little fucking brush for 3 hours. Like, sounds like a great time.
Yeah, right. Yeah, sounds like you learned a lot. Right. Yeah.
Sorry, I missed that.
Yeah. Let's go back before I want to go off track a little bit. Hospitality. I think you and I look at hospitality the same way. Me and my brother are going to open up a restaurant that's based around treating people like. We talk about all the time, me and Matthew. I want the vibe of when we walk into my mom's house for Christmas. She greets us at the door. She takes her coat. It's always hugs. It's come this way. It's get something to eat. It's find the right place on the couch. It's tell my cousins and my other brother, stop making fun of us. Like, she's always just there, so hospitable. And I always say, like, the restaurant that we want that feeling when people leave, just like, this is fucking amazing.
It needs to like wrap you up when you walk into it. That's always what I like to do.
So where do you think, and I feel like we've really gotten off track with hospitality, where do you think that started? Where it started to become more about the chef's ego and more about the pictures and the Instagram, and it isn't hospitality driven anymore? Like, or do you feel that we've gone away from it?
I feel that I mean, I don't think it isn't anymore. I think obviously, social media, had its own had its own had its own sort of the vibe, and it certainly helped things out, with regard to the marketing and having your name out there,
awareness.
But then it actually hurt, with chefs actually working, and the whole welcoming folks into the restaurant. So, but I certainly don't think that it's all sort of lost. We still think about that always, and I think that there are, a lot of restaurants who also think about that. But there's also, there is a lot of restaurants who only think about, the Instagram shot, the vibe,
the awards,
the chef, the awards, the awards. And listen, when you start off and you open up, you have to think about things, I think, in a certain way. You have to, the awards and the write-ups and all that stuff, used to really actually mean something, whereas now, it's not as meaningful. I think, back in 1998, when I opened, to be nominated for something, to get a Food and Wine article, to get this or that or mentioned, it was like, holy moly, wow, that's amazing.
The world stage now. Yeah.
Now to get Food and Wine, top 10 chefs in America is like, oh, they're okay, great.
Right.
It doesn't move the needle at all. To get like written up by your local, we all used to be like, oh, New York
Times was coming, that's it, the pinnacle, right?
Philadelphia Inquirer's coming.
Right.
You get your write up, you get your 3 stars, 2 stars,
right.
whatever it is. Oh my God, the band's coming in. Like, now it's like, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Like,
but that drove business also. Like, you get a write up, and all of a sudden you're going from 100 covers to 200 covers the next day. Sold
Absolutely.
out. Yeah.
Now everything's on the. When I opened, this is 1998. There was no. There was the internet, but I mean, we weren't. We didn't have a website. We were actually thinking then. We're like, hey, do you really think we should have a website? Do you think this thing's gonna like move the needle? Do you really think we need like an reservation system? Because we used to
just by hand,
write everything in. I used to answer the phones. We're like, oh yeah, 8 o'clock. I have that. Write it in. Oh no, okay, I'll erase it. And then the reservation system started, and we were like the last holdout. We were like, we don't need that, but then we finally went for it.
Yeah.
But so it's not the same industry. I mean, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Write-ups, they're not gonna make you. They're not gonna ruin you.
Mm-hmm.
Like some guy does. Listen, Philly Mac writes about me. They love this restaurant, but they hate this restaurant. They're still busy. It really doesn't matter.
Do you think like an influencer with 1 million followers has a little bit more influence on bringing people to the restaurant?
No, so we have obviously the Vegas restaurants, and they're always like sending in like the influencers,
of course,
and they're always like super nice. And I go over and they're like, let's have a picture. Oh my God, it's amazing. And then they write something and it's up on their Instagram page, 1 million followers, and we do the same fucking numbers. It's not. What I have always thought is that if you do something from the heart that you really think is like meaningful, folks are going to want to eat there, and like that's it. And that's what I've always done. That's what I've always done. Like I spend even like now think about it. When I opened my first restaurant back in 1998, Vetri, I was there for 9 years with that one restaurant. And I was there every single shift it was open. And that was actually when we were open 6 days a week. And, in August, we used to shut down for 3 weeks. And then after like New Year's, we used to shut down for a week. And, when I wasn't there, we weren't open. It was 9 years. We were there every night. And we like slowly... got more busy and more busy and more busy, and we're just locked in there. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, like chefs open up restaurants, and then like 4 months later, they're looking for the next restaurant. Yeah, that's awesome, and if you have offers, that's awesome. Like, however, you're not manifesting and really sort of creating this warm, long-lasting restaurant.
I agree.
It's
we had some great conversations, especially with Vernick, about when's enough is enough, and he's like, listen, I have a coffee shop, I have the fish restaurant in the Four Seasons, I have Vernick that's 10 years old now. We get offers all the time, but right now he's like, I'm good exactly. Right now. And I think the restraint of that is you don't have to take every offer that comes to you. Don't be distracted by the shiny new object. And
restraint is everything, man. Mm-hmm. It's an opening the restaurant, but it's also in like the food as well.
Yes.
Obviously. I also had like tons of offers, from 1998 to 2007. oh my God, I had tons of offers. Like everyone wanted, oh, you should move Vetri. It's not large enough. You only have 30 seats. You're never going to make any money, blah, blah, blah. Vegas was like, oh, you got to come look at this. I mean, we went, to Vegas 4 times, 5 times.
Yeah.
To look at stuff at Caesars and this and that. And, we always just went out there. We looked at it and we're like, this isn't really for us. And then when we were ready, we went for it, but
didn't feel right at the time, or wasn't
it
a good
feel right.
or yeah, right.
It didn't feel right, but but when it felt right,
I went for it.
It felt right. Yeah.
So what made you had all those offers, what made the offer from Urban Outfitters attractive to you? Or do you want to not get into that?
Was a really big check.
I mean, it's fine.
I mean, that was just, but even then I initially said no. I mean, the real story is, so we were opening up the pizzerias.
Yes.
And we opened up the first one. It was like fucking crazy.
It was so fucking good.
It was crazy. We were
such
doing
good
crazy
pizza,
numbers,
man.
And we had, I think, 7 restaurants then, or 8 restaurants, and we had management company, and we were just like, and then we opened up that, and we had always self-funded everything, so we were like leveraged. Like I had, refinanced my house like 3 times. We had everything leveraged. We owed like millions of dollars. We never had the investors. We always just kind of self-funded it. We're like, my risk, my reward.
Right. Yeah.
That's it. And that was our theory. That's super hard. It's like super, you get lots of
stress, right?
Anxiety,
Yeah.
stress.
Yeah.
But that's the way that we decide. For better, for worse, whatever it is, So it was 2000, whatever it was, 2012, 13, 14, I don't even remember. And so we opened this up, and then we're like, we'd like to open up a lot of these because this looks like it's the real money maker. Because I mean, we had 7 restaurants, but you know how much money you make out of a restaurant.
Yeah,
we were doing fine, but we weren't like doing that well. And then the owner of like the Urban Outfitters folks used to eat at the restaurant, and we became friendly, and they were also looking to sort of make these larger sort of venues where they had their the stores, and they had restaurants, and they had like the like a hair salon, or whatever it is. They had this like thought, you want to open up these areas where you have multiple things, and you need a restaurant, and how awesome would it actually be to have your restaurant there, the pizzeria, because it's like awesome. So we were looking for like money to sort of scale this thing, and they were like, hey, we know how to scale. We'd like to help you. So they were, so we said, all right. They let us have, I don't remember what it was, a few $1 million to open up 3 more of them. And they would own 15%. Something like that. And then we're actually speaking to other like finance folks that were like, oh yeah, we'll let you have the same 3 million, but we want 65%.
Right, yeah,
we're like,
right.
We'll take the Urban Outfitters deal, 15%. That sounds like way better. We're like, fuck you guys.
Yeah, right.
So we did that. We opened up a second one, say one here in Philly, and then they were like, we want to own the pizzeria. And we're like, okay, well, we'll sell it to you, you know? And they were like, yeah, but you would also have to come run the pizzeria. And we're like, well, we kind of have these other 6 or 7 restaurants. We can't do that. And then a week later, they were like, what if we just swallowed you up? And I'm like, I don't know, like.
Right. What does that even
no
look
one
like?
ever, like,
What does that even look like?
What does it even look like? I never, like, I didn't
Right.
open a restaurant to sell it. Like,
Right.
they're like, think about it.
Right.
Let us know.
A company that makes cool socks and hipster shorts
I'm
wants
like,
to buy your restaurant group.
It sounds really cool,
Yeah, right.
but I don't know. So they said, think about it for a week. I'm like, all right. Thought about it for a week. We all discussed it. So after the week, I was like, okay, I'd be happy to basically sell you everything, but I'm not going to sell you Vetri. That's my baby.
Fair enough.
Never going to sell.
Yeah, fair enough.
And they were like, okay, we'll come up with a number. Okay, so we spent the next 6 months negotiating back and forth. Finally, okay, let's have the meeting. We're going to give you our final offer. Boom, whole thing. Walk into this meeting, lawyers, yada yada. They hand me the offer, and they're like, "We just want to let you know, before you look at it, that it actually has Vetri in it." And I'm like,
Are you not listening to
but
me?
I told you, I'm
Right,
not going to say that. Well, we just wanted to throw on the tail, like, we really want you, but want the whole company. I opened it up, I shut it, and I said, "Once you guys go fuck yourself." And I left.
Good day.
And I left. And then, Jeff, my partner Jeff,
Yeah.
he actually stayed there. I went back to Vetri. I was there. He stayed there for another hour and a half, and I felt awful for him because he's the one who did all the negotiations and they were asking for all the financials and he had to show, and he spent months and months and months.
It's like an audit almost.
Basically, yeah. Oh my God, he spent 6 months where he was really out of the restaurants for them to look at everything and show everything. And he came back to Vetri and was like, I'm like, dude, I'm sorry. I mean, I just, I'm not selling Vetri. They knew that. It was really not. And then he's like, yeah, I get it. And then 4 days later, they were like, okay, here's another offer without Vetri.
Unreal.
And when we started again, and we started negotiating, and it was, it was awesome.
Right.
So I thought it would, actually work really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are the things that you learned from the urban experience that have set you up for the restaurants you're opening now, on a bigger picture? Or things you didn't know about business or working with a multi-million-dollar group like that.
Listen, that was just really, really amazing. First of all, just to sit in on all those meetings and how they sort of work things and how they scale things and how it was just lots of life lessons for me. It was actually more or less heading right back to school.
Yeah.
But it just kind of made me smarter, wiser. Just learned I think how to basically be a better leader, how to be a better listener, how to manage folks better.
Right.
It's just everything.
Right. On that note, what's your approach to retaining staff? I think you have a really interesting management style where you really kind of nurture these young guys and they stay with you for a while. And I've heard many stories of Vetri first. So you have to kick guys out after a couple of years. Like you got to go do something else, you know?
Yeah.
And I thought it was interesting that you redo the whole team instead of like hanging on to these guys for so long. And do you feel like, what's a two-part question? What's the management style? What's your tricks, you know?
Well, again, that was then, and this is actually now.
Yeah.
Then I was like, you know, the guy there still. I was like the chef, you know. I had one restaurant, you know. So if they were there for like several years, you know, there was nowhere for them
to go
to rise up. You know, I didn't have multiple restaurants. I didn't have anything to offer them. So I would kind of say to them, like, listen, man, like, I love you. I'm not giving you a raise. I don't have any more money.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to be the chef here because I'm the chef here. I don't have another restaurant. So I would like, you know, say to them after like 2 years, like, you should really start looking, you know, for something else, you know?
Right.
But it was a fun restaurant to work at. So I think they liked it. Nowadays, obviously, I would love to be able to actually hold on to them longer because we have other things. We're opening up things. We have other opportunities here and there. So, but I don't know. I just feel like I listen and, you know, I don't know. There's lots of chefs out there that are like, I want it like this, I want you to make it like this, and that's all you know, and you're just basically, I'm like a robot. You know, here's where the water glass goes, here's where this goes, here's where that goes.
Yes.
And I like to think of myself now as like, you know, the rudder for the, you know, for the ship, you know, and they are basically the wind, the sails, and they're just going to be like, you know, let's go this way now. Let's go that way, and I'm just going to steer the ship wherever they want me to go.
Right.
And I just think it just works. It's just a much, you know, happier sort of restaurant life to be able to just kind of not have to, number one, figure out everything like on your own, and just utilize that like they're the young folks. Like I want to hire like young folks who have thoughts, who want to like make things nice, who go eat over at like Europe and see things and like say, hey, you know, we should make something like this here, or we should have this wine glass, or I like saw this like style of service over there, we should do it. And then we just kind of like mess around with things, and and it's kind of new. Like every like year, I think Vetri is like a new restaurant.
I agree.
You know, and it's just like so neat. You know, some years we have new water, the water glasses. We have new silverware. We have new this, new that. We have a new chandelier. We do this kind of service now. We do like wine dinners, upstairs dinners, all sorts of guests. You know, chef dinners. It's just fun, and we just make it really always new.
Do you think after the urban deal, like, do you look at that as like a reset?
Second act.
That's what I have. A second lease on life. I have a second lease on life. Like,
Nobody gets that.
I could tell just by talking to you, and like the photos, like you're in your suits, you got the white truffle, you're in the dining room. It's like you were back. Like Marc is back, baby, and you had one restaurant and you had nowhere else to go.
I don't know that I ever left.
Yeah,
but
right.
Marc wasn't back. Marc just like started like this, you know, the next act, and yeah, it's like, you know, So what happened was after Urban Outfitters, after I like left Urban, I had like one restaurant, Vetri, you know, and that's that's when the Vetri Vegas happened. I was like, oh, you know what? Vetri Vegas, Vetri Philly.
Now you have
like,
time.
That was really cool.
Now you have time to do it also, right? Like,
so we did that.
Yeah.
And then I started to think about Fiorella, and that was all. And that was like supposed to be this like 4-day a week nonsense thing that wasn't going to make anything. It was going to be this like, you know, just this like noodle bar. You know,
15 seats.
Yeah, 15 seats. We're not going to make any
Stupid
money.
restaurant, right? Yeah.
Thursday to Sunday, whatever. And then the whole world shut down.
Yeah.
You know, and even then, like when we like reopened, you know, the restaurant, I was like, I'm working in the front of the house. I'm going to wear a suit every day because, you know, I haven't seen anyone in a year and a half, and I want them to see I'm there.
Yeah.
And I would hop on the line in my suit and make shit, and I would go out and fillet fish, and I'd open wines. And that was like, I don't know, something just made me like, I don't know, that was my kind of like rebirth, you know, not that I wasn't there, but it was just like, you know, this is, and just, you know what it was? It was that, but it was also having folks eat there again after a year and a half, and how like, oh my God, they were just so fucking, I mean, so emotional.
Yeah.
This is our first meal out, and you know, they would see me and they would be like, I want to hug you, but I have a mask, and they would start to fucking cry and be like, this was our first meal out. And dude, it was just this like this is, I mean, for all of the nonsense that, you know, that actually happened with all these like mayors and the governor saying, you know, you're just food. Like, you know, you could be a 7-Eleven, you could Wawa. You know, folks need to eat food, and you know, but they can go to the Whole Foods, so they're allowed to be open because they sell food, but you're not allowed to be open because you're in a restaurant. To realize what we actually like meant, you know, you always sort of think that, right? You always like think like, hey man, we're a fucking restaurant and they love to eat here, but you don't really realize it, and then when you're like not there for like a year and a half, and then they start eating there again, and they're so overwhelmed, and, you know, they're just like spilling their hearts out how much this means, you know, to be able to eat here again. You just realize like, wow, we are really, you know, in their lives.
Well, that's why we do it, right?
And it just made me feel it just made me want to work, you know, harder at the hospitality aspect of it, you know,
which it always comes back to.
Which it always does, but you know, having something like that really makes you, you know, more aware of it, I think.
Right. What would possess you to open up a 15-seat noodle bar?
Because I had been looking at this for years and years and years, and I've been looking at, you know, because all of my restaurants have this like, you know, meat and fish station, you know, 6 burners, oven, salamander, whatever,
steak for
fryer,
2, right,
the Garmo station, rationale, fryer, blah blah blah, and then the pasta station, 6 burner stove and a boiler, 6 burner stove and a boiler, and just watching that at like some of my larger restaurants. I mean, like at Adamis and at the Osteria, watching how many noodles went out of there on a night. 300.
Guys getting crushed on the line. Yeah.
Two guys serving 400 plates of pasta.
Yeah.
Like, what if that's all you wanted? Just a glass of wine, a salad, and a pasta. Why can't we make a restaurant with a 6-burner stove and a fucking pot? And why can't we do it? And everyone was like, oh, you can't do that, you know? And everyone was like, and then everyone was kind of thinking about, like, you know, fast casual and all this stuff. And, you know, folks would open up shit and it'd be horrible. And I'd be like, I'm going to fucking open this up and I'm going to do it. And then we announced it. We did the upstairs version of it. We had this.
We talked about it.
We had this discussion where I was like, I announced it a Friday morning on Instagram. It's like 9 a.m. Like, hey guys, upstairs at Vetri, we're making it into a noodle bar this evening. I got 14 seats or fucking 12 seats. I got 4 pastas, 3 apps. Show up, we'll feed you. You know, at like 3 o'clock, there was 50 folks waiting. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, holy shit, you know? And then we opened up and we ended up we had 12 seats and we did 144 30-minute turns and all in like 6 hours.
Wow.
And I was like, this is a restaurant, you know? I got to figure out where, I got to figure out what, I got to figure out how the fuck we're going to do it. But yeah, and then we spent the next 2-3 years looking for it.
Yeah, it's such an amazing vibe there, though.
It's really
the
fun.
crew is there is so much fun too.
Yeah.
Max and Matt are great.
Yeah, Max, Matt, everybody there, man.
Yeah. What keeps you going? Like, what keeps you pushing? What keeps you? You know what? We have the pasta bar. We have Vetri. That's a legendary. We have the steakhouse in the suburbs out there. Like, how does a guy like you keep going, man? I mean, you're not a spring chicken. No offense, but you know, like you're not. You know,
I can still hang.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah.
The fact that I can still like roll at my age with anyone who looks like you is amazing. You know, but what keeps me going? What life? You know, like what's you know. I mean, this is my life, right? Like I don't look at things like, you know how a lot of folks think about things like, you know, this is my work bucket and this is my like home bucket. I'm married and I got my kids, and when we go on vacation, you know, I don't look at emails and I don't do that. And it's my work and I'm at work and I'm blah. But I have one bucket, and it's like the bucket of life, you know. And I don't I'm always like I could be hiking on a fucking mountaintop, or I could be fishing, you know, and my phone rings and it's like the restaurant. I'll be like, you know, reeling a fish. I'll be like, hey man, what's up? Right. You know, you have the walk-ins. Okay, here's the number of this guy. Call this guy. Like, I'm just like, that's my life. That's just like what I love. You know, like I love mentoring these guys, and you know, that's honestly more. I think I get more satisfaction, you know, about watching somebody go from like salad chef to, you know, sous chef to owner than anything. Yeah. Like that's the most.
Well, you're doing your job.
Fulfilling thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But that's what, you know, that's my life. So when you say like, what makes you, to keep going forward, what would make me not go? I mean, like that's, you know, like, you know, the opposite of just moving forward is just like not doing anything.
Stopping, yeah.
Yeah, what am I going to do? Stop.
Right. Being stagnant.
This is my life. This is what makes me happy. Like making food for folks, mentoring folks, basically being, super, creative. That's my life, and that's what I've always loved, and that's what, as long as I have air, heading into these lungs, I'm gonna be making food. I'm gonna be, certainly welcoming folks into my restaurant, and I'm gonna be on the mats. So
on the mats. Yeah. Well, okay, great transition. How did you find jiu-jitsu?
How did I find jiu-jitsu? Well, Rob Shire,
Precision Jiu-Jitsu and King of Prussia.
We went to school together years ago, and I've known him for years and years and years. And he's always hounded me, like, you should roll with me. You should roll with me. And I always started, but then I was always I'm working, or I was into like the basketball thing for years and years and years. But then about whatever it was, 14 or so years ago, like my low back hurt and I wasn't able to play basketball. And, I had I think I had like a 3-year-old then, a 4-year-old. And maybe I had 3 kids by then, or I don't even remember. And I don't remember what year it was when I started, but he was like, why don't you come out Saturday, bring your son with you, and we'll just kind of roll around and hang out. And then I went out, and then I started, saying to my chefs, Michaud, and the other guy, Brad Spence.
Yeah.
I was like, guys, why don't you come out Saturday with me, have some fun. And they were sort of, reluctant, but then we all started heading there Saturdays, and then we just started, when you start that, and then you start to get into it, then you go once a week, then you go twice a week, then it's like, then you start watching videos online, and that's all you think about. Just all you think
about. You're buying new gis and new rash guards.
You're getting hurt, you're getting black eyes. It's just like, and it's just spiraling out of control. And I just fell into it and just loved it.
Right. So I know a lot of chefs that do jiu-jitsu. Why do you think that this sport is so compatible for the chef lifestyle?
It's a great outlet.
Yeah.
It's a great outlet because you can roll at your level. Most of the chefs who I know who roll, a lot of them are like super angry, so they need to. You know the guys.
I do. I know exactly what you're talking about, right? Yeah.
Oh my God! But it's just such a great outlet, and it's just like it's amazing, and it's not, and the whole thought of oh, you're gonna hurt yourself, you're gonna do this. I hurt myself so much more in the other stuff I did.
Right. Yeah.
The basketball and the work in the line than I've ever hurt myself in this sport.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's in our professional lives, we problem solve all day. Yeah. Constantly all day. And like jiu-jitsu is like another form of problem solving. So we're familiar with the process of it, but it's kind of like the consequences are a little bit more grave. Yeah,
a little
than like,
if you mess this up,
right, you're going to be unconscious.
You could lose an arm.
Lose an arm. Yeah, yeah. I think I don't know. I feel like it's a super important thing that I do, and sometimes when I'm in the restaurant and the guys will be like, "Hey, did you go to jiu-jitsu this week at all?" Or like, "Why don't you go tomorrow? We got this covered. We got this covered." And then I come in and I'm just all day thinking about like how's 18-year-old kid choked me out, and I'm not really worried about what everybody's doing. I'm still keeping an eye on it, but I'm not as Yeah.
But it's also good for like lessons, like I'm certainly older now, and I'm not able to use like certain things that I was able to use five years ago. So I have to sort of rework how I roll. And it's super hard, but it's also super healthy.
Right. Yeah. It taught me
restraint
to start with. Yes. But it also taught me. It put me back at like learning something new, and it helped me with new cooks coming on board. The way that I'm teaching is, if I can't understand learning this technique in jiu-jitsu, and it took me 3 weeks to really understand what he's talking about, is maybe I'm not explaining things proper enough, and I've kind of brought the energy level down a little bit and got on their level of how they're learning and checked in with them, and 100%. Constant reinforcement, and that's kind of the things that I bring from there. Yeah,
we certainly have to like remember that, you know, like you're like, hey man, you should make this, you know, but you know, when you're in the heat of the line and it's rocking and you have to make like, you know, 6 of these and 8 of these, and you know they just get overwhelmed and it's just hard, you know. So we have to sort of, I mean, maybe it's like easy for us, you know, like even last night I was like saying to somebody, you know, like, hey man, you should use you know, when you hear the order, here's what you ought to be, you know, thinking, you know, you ought to be thinking, okay, I'm going to stick my the you know the actual tape pans down first, and then I'm gonna get my mise en place, then I'm gonna do this, you know, and you know I was just kind of working them sort of through the whole thing, you know, and they're like, but I do it like this. I'm like, okay, but this is a much easier way to think about it. So it's just like, you know, same thing.
Yeah,
it's kind of showing them how to do things.
It's super easy to a young cook to be like, brunoise this, sear this, braise this, make a cartouche, put it in the oven for this long, and they're just like, I didn't understand anything you fucking said. You know, it's like speaking Mandarin, you know.
That's funny.
What is your relationship with Colorado? You go there a lot. You have a vacation. You have a house there, or you have a vacation house there. Yeah, you're always there, and it just every time I see you post something, it seems like Marc's in his zone. You know.
You know. Me and my wife, you know, just fell in love with it. You know, we actually started heading there for the yoga, because I met my wife, and you know, we actually met doing yoga.
Yeah.
And you know, we initially went there because there was this like really, you know, well-known yoga guy there. So and he had this like it was a weekend seminar, you know, something. So we went, and we just loved it, right? And then a few months after that, I asked, you know, I asked her to marry me, and you know, she said yes, obviously, because we're married. That was 17 years ago, and then you know, we're like, where do you want to get married? And I was, you know, 38, and I was just like, I don't want to get married in Philadelphia, because then I'd have to like ask everyone, you know, to be there, and everyone's gonna come, and I don't want everyone to come, so you know, let's get married somewhere else, you know. So we decided on there, and we've found this awesome restaurant right on this mountainside. What was it called? Flagstaff House. It was like it was like a few miles up the mountain. It overlooked the whole area. So we ended up getting married there, and then we just used to start. You know, we used to, you know, do 5 days in the summer, and then we did a week in the summer, then we did a week and a half, and then we did 2 weeks, then we did 2.5 weeks, and then the whole like VRBO thing started. We started renting a house, and then we just always went, and then we just started looking, you know. And I got into fly fishing when I was out there, and you know, I'd love to, you know, my wife loved to, you know, walk up mountains and hike, and I get into riding out there, and then, you know, like obviously became really friendly with you know, the guys who own Frasca, Bobby Stuckey,
Lachlan,
so they're like super friends of mine, and you know, so we go like riding when I'm out there, and then we just started looking, and you know, we're kind of thinking about a second home, but you know, weren't quite there yet. And we looked for, you know, probably 5 or 6 years. Whenever we were out there, we looked at a whole bunch of houses, and then in 2019, we kind of stumbled on one, and we just, you know, we went for it. And then obviously 6 months later, the whole world shut down again, and so what happened was, you know, since Vetri wasn't open for that whole the summer, we went and lived there.
Yeah.
So we basically lived there the whole summer, and that kind of changed things, because I was like, okay, I think we're going to do this every summer.
Right. Yeah.
And and that's when we really started to kind of sink into it, and I really, but now that's, I like fall, winter, 9 months a year we're here in Philly working, and then the summer I'm out there.
Yeah, seems like a great outlet.
That's where I live, and I'll still, like, obviously I'll obviously fly to Vegas, or I'll fly home, but that's kind of like home base for the summer.
Yeah, right.
And it just works well,
right on.
And we love it out there. I mean, I love the mountains. I just love it out there.
Yeah, it's great. What changes in the industry? What do we need to do? We're in a hard spot right now, and we keep hanging on to the pandemic and supply chain issue and inflation, which I think is all sort of a little bit bullshit, but the staffing issue is a huge problem.
The staffing's hard, but is that a restaurant industry issue, or is that just an issue with the world? I mean, it
might be a little bit of both.
Like, is it us that's really the issue? Me and Bobby Stuckey, we actually obviously we sort of hang out a lot over the summer, and obviously all these things they arise, and we discuss them, and it's always amazing to me, like, when I see articles about, like, there's this new young chef and they're going to start this new restaurant industry where everyone is, like, making a wage, and we offer insurance, and we offer 401k, and you have your
free gym membership, and I could buy you a bike
and all that stuff. And then I'm like, and me and him are like, well, we've been doing that for forever, so it's not a new thing. It's actually, hey, why don't you go work for an organization who does it right?
Right.
We've offered health insurance like since 1999. We're always looking into what is the fair wages now. We've always offered, after your first year or your first 6 months, you get a week off, paid after another year. You get like 15 days off. After 3 years with us, you get 20-something days off a year. We've always offered that. They write about restaurants like, they don't offer insurance, and they don't give you time off, and they don't give you overtime, and they don't, they yell at you, and they're mean to you, and they're like, screw you. Like, okay, well, if you're working at that restaurant company, I wouldn't want to work there either, because it kind of sucks.
Right.
But if you're working for my restaurant company, or the Bobby Stuckey restaurant company, or somewhere else, who is a welcoming, hard-working restaurant organization,
good operator,
really good operator, nice to people, works. We set the example also. Like, I'm there. Where do you find Mark at 8:30 a.m. on Monday morning?
Yeah.
Sitting at his restaurant,
right, drinking espresso.
Yeah, having espresso on the stoop.
Yeah, But I see some of those articles, and the first thing that catches my mind is, this person worked at this restaurant for X amount of time and was mistreated, and they weren't paid. It's like, why don't you quit?
Yeah, why
don't you fucking quit?
Leave.
Like, no one's forcing you to work here. And now, after 3 years of being there, they want to tell their story of how mistreated they were. It's like, What the fuck's your fucking problem? Fucking quit and find something else, you know? Like,
exactly.
And I think,
that's exactly how I feel.
You know, we were talking the other day, it's okay to say, I was at somewhere and this wasn't a good experience for me, or it wasn't for me. And they do things extremely well and they're very good at it. But for me, in my orbit and what I want out of my life, this is not for me and I'm going to go find something else. I think that's a hard realization for people. You get into a job and you think you're stuck or you're afraid to leave or whatever the reasons are.
Not every restaurant is the right sort of fit for everybody.
Not any sport, not any living situation, not any person, not just you have to keep trial and error.
So when everybody says, you know, to me, what's wrong with the restaurant? It's like, you know what? It's
what's wrong with people? What's wrong with people?
I love this industry. I've been loving this industry for 30 years, man, and I still love it, you know? And there's nothing wrong with it. And you know, it's evolving like everything else is evolving. Like everything else is evolving, you know? We evolve, you know? And every year we want to make ourselves a little bit nicer, a little bit better, a little bit more organized, a little bit more interesting. Yeah. And that's what we do.
I would love to see, I think we've really gotten away from the trades and trade schools.
Yeah.
It's there was such an emphasis on degrees in college and master's degree, and now the pendulum's swinging away from that. People are realizing, you don't need it, you can't do anything with it, it's so very expensive.
Oh my God.
So I really hope that trades, mechanic, or a computer engineer, fixing a TV, they're really going to start to come back. And I hope in the next couple of years we're going to see an influx of people applying to culinary schools or checking out the restaurant industry, and hopefully we're ready for it.
Something that my father, he was always like, why restaurants? Why this? Because they were always like nervous about it. Obviously, back in the late 80s or early 90s.
Yeah, nobody knew what it was.
You were a restaurant guy. You were going to slave over it. You were going to get married. You were going to get divorced. That was the mindset. And I remember saying to my father, and he left me alone, like after that, he's like, what are you gonna do? And this, that. I'm like, restaurants, Pa. I love the restaurant industry. I love, making food. And he's like, yeah, but what if something happened? I was like, Pa, whatever happens, everyone's got to eat. Mm-hmm. They always got to eat. Right. It's never gone away.
What did your parents do?
My mom was a lawyer, and my father owned a bunch of jewelry stores. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sold earrings and Yeah.
So no connection to the restaurant industry, but you came from a huge Italian family. Always sat down. Dinner was important.
My father used to make Sunday meals. Yeah. His mom and dad used to make them all the time. Yeah. So there was always food around, and there was always that, and that's what honestly made me really love the food world. Yeah.
If we weren't home for dinner from being outside playing with our friends or riding bikes, it was the end of the world if we were 5 minutes late.
Oh my God, Remember that? Yeah. Those days are gone.
So gone.
You're not even allowed.
Kids don't even go
outside alone.
Kids don't even go out of the house anymore, man.
I know.
Yeah. So you're a guy that's always working on things. What's next for you, man? And you don't have to. I'm not looking for we're going to do this restaurant, but in the grand scheme of things, where's this going for you?
What's next? I mean, what is next? What are we doing? I'm just living, man. I'm just like, you want to live. I just want to make folks happy. Mm-hmm. Want to welcome them into my home. And that's what I love, to do. I see folks as, they have their issues with life and stuff and family and work, and I sort of look at us as we are that safe haven where they can sort of leave all of their issues and all their worries and everything, and they could walk into my world, for whatever it is, 90 minutes, 3 hours, and I can basically take them to Italy and, make them sort of forget about life for a while.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And, let them have a little bit of happiness,
Mm-hmm.
a really awesome memory, and, make them smile.
Yeah. Well said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
I'm going to get sentimental here for a minute. So the first time we met was when I came to work at Osteria.
Okay.
I was working for a restaurant group, and I was at this crossroads in my life, and I didn't want to cook anymore. So I saved all this money, and I said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go work and stage for chefs that I've always respected, for people I think I could start a conversation with about food. And I was a broken person when you found me.
You were pretty broken.
I was.
You weren't that broken.
You
were doing all right.
Yeah, I was. Well, I was okay.
We took you in.
Yeah, you took me in. So I had went to New York first, and I had worked for a French chef, and I still admire him to this day, even though it was a real shitty stage. And I stood against the wall the whole time. They didn't let me touch anything. They didn't talk to me, and it was fucking. And I was like, maybe this was a bad idea. Mm-hmm. Maybe I shouldn't go on this life journey. Like, I just started out, and I was still trying to figure out what exactly I wanted to get out of it. But I knew that I couldn't stay in Chicago, and I knew the only way to fix this was let's just resort back to a 20-year-old Ryan that's just like working in all these restaurants and gaining information and no responsibility. So I found my way to you guys at Osteria, and was working there a couple days, and you walked in and you were tinkering around with the espresso machine, and you're standing over where the pizza station is. It was cold out, you had your hat on, and you were fucking pissed off about something. And you were talking to Brad Daniels, and I was like, fuck, it's Marc Vetri. Like, well, here's my opportunity. I introduced myself, like, hey, I'm here. So you're talking with him, and I walk over, like, hey, Marc, I'm Ryan, and hanging out with you. You're like, yeah, great. Nice to meet you. And then I was like, oh, fuck, man. I was like, you idiot, So then, we got to know each other. We started doing jiu-jitsu, and you and I started driving that 45-minute drive to jiu-jitsu every morning.
Yeah.
And I got to talk to you, and we got to know each other and become friends. And I got to understand that you have the same problems in the restaurant industry, and the same insecurities, and the same, faults and everything that I did.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at it just through my lens of, these aren't my problems. These are problems that everybody's over. These are problems that this guy that has all these restaurants is facing every day. Staffing this, how do I get this done? And it was so important for me from everything that I did. I went to Blue Hill, I went to Noma, I went to Japan, I was in Asia. But that beginning with you and Jeff and Brad was so important, because I needed to get my mojo back, and I was really intimidated by cooking.
Yeah.
And I was in a welcoming environment with people that actually cared what I was doing, that people wanted to help me. And that helped me get my mojo back a little bit and helped set me up for the other stages and the other travels that I was doing. So
that's awesome.
You'll never know what that experience and impact had on me, but I really appreciate it. And I'm glad I got the opportunity to tell you.
Thank you so much, man. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what it is all about. The more I sort of see the world, it's just the same issues are everywhere. Mm-hmm. You go eat at like wherever it is, the most amazing restaurants in like the world. But if you hang out with them, you're gonna see like they're whining about the same shit.
Yeah.
They keep on breaking the glasses. Why did the chef not fire this all the time? They had to wait 15 minutes for their entree.
The fish cook is just as shitty as our fish cook.
It's like the same. It's the same issues.
Yeah.
It's the same issues. So I just went to Italy with actually the Bobby Stuckey guys. The
Fresca guys, yeah.
The Fresca guys. And just kind of sitting there at the meals with them, because I only eat there and I see this wonderful service and meals and how wonderful it is. Amazing, and everyone's so happy. And then I hear them whining about the same shit I'm whining about. I'm like, yes, motherfucker! You are not perfect. Right. It's like, yes, it's the same shit. And it's just, how do you handle it?
Yeah.
How do you handle it? How do you not get overwhelmed by it? Mm-hmm. So it's it's always nice to you actually hear something like that.
Yeah, right. It's about the friendships you make along the way.
And it's nice to know that that we we had an impact.
Yeah, a huge impact. Yeah. So I'll ever be grateful for that.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Thanks for hanging out with us today. That was
My
really
pleasure,
great,
brother.
I appreciate
Love
it. Yeah,
it.
right on.
Anytime.
Cheers.
Thanks.